on the rubble of her home. She cries out for her parents, but the voices are lost. She cannot understand. She's confused. She's alone. There is blood on her hands, but it's not her fault. Not her fight, not her war. She's too young to give up, but it's not her fault.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Remember Palestine with me, Lauren Booth. From being a side issue for many nations at best, Palestine is now a big news story as the bid for full membership of the United Nations gathers speed. This week, following the Egyptian people's lead in showing disdain for Israel's occupation of Palestine, Jordanian protests forced the Zionist government to temporarily clear its Amman embassy. Meanwhile, as the world was asked to mourn 9/11, Remember Palestine joins the millions who remember also the dead of 9/16, the date in 1982 when the massacre of Palestinian refugees in the Sabra and Shatila camps began. Today I'll be discussing the implications of the UN vote and Israeli ethnic cleansing policies in Al-Quds and beyond. Here's a glimpse of the tragic reality of house demolitions on Palestinians.
The reality of Palestinians being displaced and having their houses demolished is part of daily life experienced by many since 1948. Salim Shawamra's story, the field coordinator for the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, is no different to any other Palestinians living in Jerusalem.
My family forced to leave old city of Jerusalem to a camp called Shiafat Refugees Camp, and that's happened after 1967. We have given a room that time, which is 3.5 meters by 6 meters, and we are 5 brothers and 5 sisters, you see. Then when I tried to get a home, you know, for myself, after working 10 years in Saudi Arabia, you know, in the desert, sweeping and bringing the money, trying to have a small piece of land and have a home on it, they come and they destroy the home, they destroy my life savings.
The Palestinian population lives in 7% of the city. To be able to build a new house, Palestinians need to request a building permit at the Israeli Civil Administration Office.
More than 95% of the Palestinians who is applying to get building permit, they get refusing for that building permit.
Between 1990 and 1994, Salim Shawamra was denied a building permit 3 times.
I started building it in 1994 without getting that building permit. 1994, living inside with my 6 kids and my wife until the black date in my life and in my family life, which is 9th of July, 1998. More than 300 soldiers came and surrounded the area with a bulldozer just to pick me and pick my 6 kids and my wife out of that home.
Salim has taken his case to the International Court, and although they accepted the case, there has been no progress. In the meantime, he has kept rebuilding his house as a symbol of resistance.
With the help of ICAD, started rebuilding the home for the 3rd time. Also, tens of volunteers, Israelis, Palestinians, internationals, they came to help us in the rebuilding, and we finished it on 9th of July, 1999, as a shell building.
As part of his resistance, Salim is also leading summer camps every year where the international community can join Palestinians to rebuild their ruined homes.
Nasim Ahmed of the Palestine Return Centre, and welcome to Remember Palestine. Let us talk a little bit, if we can, about the effect of the UN vote that's coming forward for membership of the United Nations, of a Palestine state.
Oh, next week, well, 23rd, that's when Mahmoud Abbas will actually officially request the United Nations. As to what he will request is not very clear, whether it would be full membership or recognition for a Palestinian state. There's lots of issues surrounding that, especially within the Palestinian refugee community, in terms of their recognition. within the UN, because at the moment the PLO represents the Palestinians, and the call for a statehood or recognition of a statehood might jeopardize their or weaken their rights. And there's also various merits which have been attributed to this recognition. But if you look at the strategic development within the region, it might, if anything, weaken the Palestinians even more and strengthen the Israeli position.
Can you just explain how many Palestinians actually are forced into exile currently, and what your research at the Palestine Return Centre has shown about how many want to return, and if the Palestinians were to return, how would that take place? Do you have an image of that at the Palestine Return Centre?
Well, I think the crucial issue is to first recognise what, in principle and from an international legal point of view, what is the rights of the 7.1 million Palestinian refugees.
7.1
so
million.
Globally, from the 11 million Palestinians, there's 7.1 million Palestinian refugees. The majority of them, so you have 3 million within the West, 2.5 million within West Bank, 1.5 in Gaza, and the rest are in diaspora within Jordan. There's 500,000 within Syria, another 500,000 in Lebanon, and you have, of course, another hundreds of thousands around the world. So this UN vote, which is what we're talking about, this UN vote, what we actually do is it will weaken their position, because at the moment the PLO is what represents the Palestinians in diaspora, or the global Palestinian population. So if the United Nations recognizes a Palestinian state or a PA as the representative of the Palestinians, the PA has no mandate to actually represent the Palestinians in diaspora. All it has is a mandate to actually represent the Palestinians in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip.
So let me just stop you there. Is there a body that represents Palestinians in the diaspora legally and politically?
It's recognised, the UN recognises the PLO is the rightful representative of the Palestinian people, and the Palestinian people are the primary agent of the Palestinian question. It's not the state, it's the Palestinian people.
So just in short, very short on time, the right of return will be weakened, in your opinion, by this statehood bid at the UN?
It will be, because there will be no representative body for the Palestinians in diaspora within the UN arguing for their rights. That's why it would be weakened severely. On
the 19th of September 1982, Israeli troops oversaw one of the worst massacres of Palestinian refugees since the Zionist terrorism campaign of 1948. RP remembers those who died, lost loved ones, or survived the Sabra and Shatila massacre.
It has been 29 years since the world woke up to one of the most heinous crimes of the last century. On September 16, 1982, the Israeli forces had occupied the capital Beirut and controlled the entrance to the city. It is no secret to anyone that armed men, said to be members of the Lebanese Falange Party, entered the Sabra and Shatila camps with Israeli assistance and cover. They remained inside for 2 days, during which they massacred the camp's unarmed Palestinians, in addition to many Lebanese residents in that area. International sources estimated the number of casualties to be 800, while local counts through the families of the victims say the number was more than 3,000 Palestinian and Lebanese civilians killed, and many missing to this very day. Muhammad was 20 years old when he saw armed men coming towards the camp from the roof of his house. 5 members of his family were shot dead.
I was shocked to hear from someone that my family was killed. When I found my mother, she couldn't speak, she only wept. I found out that they had fired hysterically at my family, even my crawling baby sister.
Muhammad tells me what he witnessed on the days during and after the mass killing was far from describable. Now I am teaching my children about Palestine, he says.
When you ask my son where he's from, he'll tell you his name is Abbas, from the village of Nameh in Safad, Palestine. He doesn't say he's from Beirut or Shatila or Lebanon.
Some 3 generations have lived in this camp, which is one of 12 refugee camps in Lebanon, where the people live in dire conditions. The PLO has lately opened the Palestinian embassy in Beirut, which many hoped would be a first step to finding solutions for the refugees, who say they feel that even the Arab leaders had previously conspired against them.
Even in Israeli parliaments, they punished and asked Sharon about what happened, while Arabian countries didn't do anything. They just sent some money to people who are killed and then distributed to some societies.
Now they say they are resisting the Israeli aim to make millions of Palestinians forget the mere thought of the right to return.
Massacre is the same battle, but by indirect way and indirect. Israel occupy us, other country kill us, send us to prison. This is indirect way. But Arabian countries and our neighbors do the same battle by indirect way. But what is the common? To take Palestinians outside of their country.
Although the Palestinian Authority seeks to achieve recognition for an independent Palestinian state, refugees here fear that their crisis is far from a tangible solution. The pain and agony caused by the horrific massacre in Sabra and Shatila camp continues to be remembered 29 years on. And despite the fact that refugees here and in other camps sometimes feel isolated and alone in their cause, they say their call to return to the land they still call home continues to reverberate. Mariam Saleh reporting from the Sabra and Shatila camp in Beirut for Remember Palestine.
Well, this week has seen surprising scenes in Jordan as protests at the Israeli embassy forced its staff to evacuate. It's been no secret that for decades Jordan's king and government have received financial support from the US regime. So are these protests a sign that the tide may be turning against more than the Israeli consul in Jordan? Joining me down the line to discuss this from Amman is Ruba Zidan, a local journalist. Welcome, Ruba, to Remember Palestine.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Can I just ask you how the protests were met by the police and the army in Jordan?
Well, from what I saw and from what I heard and on the internet, they were not treated violently, but Jordanian forces surrounded the embassy from early morning. There were huge numbers of police cars and lieutenants from here and there, but they were not treated violently. They were not welcomed. They were asked to leave home. Some of them were tough with protesters, but nothing major happened.
Can I ask you as well, how much aid does Jordan get from the US? And is the anger on the streets against the Jordanian royal family, as well as for making pacts and deals with Israel and America?
Well, yeah, let's start with the other part. Of course, we get lots of income and lots of money from the U.S. I don't know the exact number now because the financial budget keeps changing every year and it's not announced. What is announced is not actually the truth. But of course, many U.S. organizations are working here and there in Jordan to improve things. So yes, we have a lot of aid from the U.S. About the royal family, to be honest, most of the Jordanians, in fact 90% of them, are with the king and the royal family. Our problem is not with the royal family as much as with some of the policies and the treaties. Like the protesters yesterday, they were talking about Wadi Araba and the effect it has done. None of them mentioned the government, the king, and they were in general terms. But I feel the king is really loved here from Jordanians and Jordanians from Palestinian origins.
Okay. And then the anger is at Israel. Why is it bubbling up in Jordan now? Is Jordan, are the people there, including those from the refugee camps, mimicking the tactics they see in Egypt?
Yes, of course, you cannot deny the effect. What happened in 2011 was abnormal. People have changed. Youth has changed. We've learned from Egypt's experience, yes, of course. I mean, this what happened yesterday on the embassy, it was organized by some organizations of the youth who published a page on the Facebook trying to copy what happened in Egypt. And, of course, what happened in Syria and in Libya, I mean, the atmosphere is changing. But why now? Because also Jordanians are fed up with the continuing criticism of Israel to Jordanian policies and the intervention in our internal policies.
Ruba, that's all we have time for. Ruba Zidan, thank you very much for joining us live there from Amman. because it's time now for our weekly look at the global movement against Israeli apartheid.
A 20-metre Palestinian flag and more than 900,000 signatures were delivered on Monday at the European Council in Brussels, petitioning for member states to recognise Palestine. The flag was revealed by activists of the Avaz Palestine campaign and Belgian artist Alain de Klerk. As the Palestinians' bid for statehood is only a few days away, people from Palestine are getting ready to celebrate. Flags and banners are being printed and sewn for residents to show their anticipation for possible statehood celebrations. About 30 different types of slogans are being printed on the banners in either Arabic or English. The demand for statehood banners has increased drastically, and print shops are working day and night to meet its aim. Manufacturers in the cities of Hebron and Ramallah are making sure that Palestinians have the flags and banners needed in time to support the UN bid for Palestinian statehood. The walls of Palestine and Israel are soon to be covered by black and white large portraits of their ordinary citizens. The art project was originally launched by a mystery photographer only known as JR, who set up 3 photo booths in 2 Palestinian and 2 Israeli cities. Palestinian campaigners gave a new twist to the artist's original idea by using some of the pictures to show the support for the Palestinians' bid for statehood. After taking the photos, children from a refugee camp were asked to paint the colours of the flag of a country that has supported Palestine as an independent state. Palestine is aiming to restore an independent state in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. So far, 140 out of 193 countries have given their support to Palestine.
Well, this week in the West Bank there has been a rising tide of violence from extremist Jewish settlers there. Joining me now from Ramallah down the line is Hannah Cassis to talk about this. Hannah, thank you for joining us. I understand today around Nablus there has been more settler violence.
It's very true, Laura. The settlers attacked the village of Kusra once again and started shooting at the Palestinians there. The Palestinians, as soon as they saw the settlers enter, went to defend their land and themselves and were shot at by the Israeli settlers. And then the Israeli occupation forces also came into the village and started shooting at the Palestinians there. Kusra was attacked also on the 5th of September. The settlers tried to burn the mosque there at about 2 o'clock in the morning and wrote slogans that are offensive to Islam and to the Prophet on the mosque wall.
Some media sources call this tit-for-tat violence, but are you experiencing in the West Bank attacks from different settlements? Is this a growing violence?
It is a growing violence. Yesterday, for example, also about 6 cars were burned in the village of Bet Furik, which is also close to Nablus. The settlements, the Israeli settlements in the Nablus area and in the Hebron area are mostly made up of ultra-Orthodox, extremist, right-wing settlers. And they have been attacking Palestinian towns repeatedly, almost on a daily basis from the beginning of this month until now.
We understand that they've been, a lot of them are being trained by the IDF, being warned of a youth uprising in Palestine when this bid for entrance to the UN is announced on the 20th or the 23rd of this month. How realistic is it that Palestinian young people will try and drive settlers out on that date?
First of all, those settlements are illegal according to international law, and those settlements and the settlers should not be there. But to answer your question, I seriously doubt that Palestinians would be able to reach the settlements or even the roadblocks in those areas because the Palestinian Authority security officials would not allow Palestinians to reach the settlements. There was a report on Israeli daily Haaretz yesterday or 2 days ago claiming that the Palestinian Authority is trying to purchase protest dispersal weapons from Israel itself. And these weapons included rubber-coated bullets as well as tear gas canisters. The PA yesterday denounced that and said that it was a lie and that it was not true. But Mahmoud Abbas and other officials from the Palestinian Authority said very clearly that the demonstrations will only be allowed to be held in major Palestinian cities, and the Palestinians protesting will not be allowed to reach settlements or Israeli military checkpoints.
Just finally, what about the right to self-defense of young people living near these settlements? When the settlers open fire, are they defended by police? Do they have any rights to go to the Israeli courts? What happens?
They are not defended by anyone, actually. The Palestinian security forces are not allowed to go into those areas, and even if they are, they do not, because there's something called security cooperation between the PA and the occupation, and that means that the PA will stop any attempt of Palestinians trying to resist the Israeli occupation. Palestinians do not have arms. The only way Palestinians are defending themselves now is the same way we've been defending ourselves for the past 60 years, and that's mostly with rocks, to be perfectly honest.
Hannah Kassis, thank you very much for joining us down the line there from the West Bank. Nassim, just finally then, it's hard to imagine much jubilation actually in the minds of people living in the West Bank and Gaza, whatever happens at the UN.
Well, I just want to say the issue of Palestine, as Edward Said said, is not about flags and national anthems and nationalism. It's not about that. It's something more fundamental. It's about the rights of millions of human beings. That's what it is. And calling for a state when there's still occupation, there is the illegal wall, there is ongoing settlements and demolition of homes. When these are facts on the ground, to simply try and whitewash all this and try and go for an international strategic move doesn't really change the game much. You know, Israel is still pulling all the tricks here, and it will not change anything. There is a faction within the Palestinians who think this will actually change the game, but it will not do anything much for the Palestinians in general.
Thanks very much for that. And that's all we have time for in this week's Remember Palestine. See you next time.